For legal reasons, I have to say I can be called journalist. I have no press card, so in case someone from the commission is hearing, I have to make this disclaimer, unless I will be fined, and I don't have crypto to pay the fines. So let's start. This conversation is a little bit off the topic of blockchain, and my invitees for this panel are not so into the blockchain as the other companies and the other invitees for the other panels. So I will ask for a round of presentations. Could you tell us a little short bio beside the facts that Katerina mentioned and what bring you here to this table? I don't know if Georgie, you want to start?
Hi, thank you for this invitation. I think AI and blockchain have many opportunities to work together. I think most of the people here are expecting to hear how AI can help blockchain. I think there is a lot on the other direction too. I have a degree in software engineer area of AI 30 years ago, and have been applying AI algorithms, a very different type of algorithms in innovation and business projects all over this time. Recently started KBI. KBI project is one specific area of knowledge management.
It's nice to know someone working on AI for 30 years. For all of us that think that AI came only with ChatGPT, no, AI was there before. Eliana, please.
Hi. Well, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure to be here. So I haven't worked in AI for 30 years, but it's coming to 20 years this year. I've started my career in Portugal, working in applied econometrics. I moved then to London. I've worked many years in both London, US, really building products with AI, and that's really my sweet spot, is really building innovative products, embedding AI in all aspects of the platforms. More recently, and after an experience in the Middle East, I came back to Portugal, and I've started a number of ventures, also some of them working from Madeira, which I'm very proud of. And in these new ventures, I've been exploring and building new products with AI and really taking advantage of everything that occurred in the generative AI space. So I'm really excited about some of the questions that I might get asked, especially around agentic AI. I think the next huge revolution that will occur, that I don't think many people are expecting, aware, and even ready, is really the new wave of agentic AI. And I'm really happy that in Madeira we actually are developing agentic platforms for almost a year. Hopefully we can take advantage of that to help also this sector. Thank you.
Well, I'm last one. I have a disclaimer to do. As João said, I have no experience with blockchain. So if you are expecting some smart things regarding blockchain, you don't expect that from me. So.
If you want to sell tokens, is with Diogo?
No. So you just should expect not intelligent things from me. I've been working also with AI. George said that he has been working for 30 years. I am 28 years old. So I've just been working with AI for the last 5-6 years, mostly in academia. So we were developing several research projects, including for sports sciences, for agriculture, and more recently, we are also been working with generative AI. And our view regarding this generative AI is from the point of view of a teacher teaching something to a model, okay? So we have been working with this recent field that I think we will have some time to explore, which is called machine teaching, where we use the capabilities of these models to try to learn something from them and also try to learn how they learn so that we can try to teach our students the same way. I am doing a PhD, hopefully. I will finish the PhD next year, hopefully. I have a scholarship, so my scholarship is ending next year, so I have this motivation to finish my PhD. By the way, if someone is offering PhD scholarships, I am available to work next year if you want. I do my work at the University of Madeira, and that's it from my side.
Nice. It is half round table, half pitch table, as you are witnessing. The topic of the conversation really highlights the question about generative AI, and the last couple years, I would say like 4 or 5 years, we have been witnessing like the rising hype of generative AI. But I want to highlight, as a not journalist or researching on AI, that there is a wide field of technologies that can be put under the umbrella of AI. And I would like to hear you about this and about the kind of AI that you are using, since I know that, for example, George is not working with generative AI or ChatGPT or the apps that you might know, but another kind of AI. And Elian, you could tell us a little bit more about agentic AI and these particular definitions. So.
Sure. Okay, I can start. Actually, I'm also using generative AI, but it's not only generative AI. I came, like we spoke, classical AI, because it was where the AI term began, is a technique of using intelligent algorithms that are not a black box like in generative AI. In generative AI, you train something and you hope for a good response most of the time. In classic or symbolic AI, you have a semantic representation of the reality, and you have algorithms that process that reality over time. And so that's what we've been working on, creating a representation of this knowledge in all these forms, and using these to like change over time and provide the responses for the user, whatever it is. And that's the connection with the blockchain that we are trying to explore now, is to like map the knowledge and the representations that we have with a blockchain in order for deal with the truth value of the knowledge. Have a certification process, have a ledger on the changes of knowledge over time, and also how to trigger actions when specific knowledge changes, and this will affect all the remaining of the knowledge base.
Nice. So create a chronology in your mind, like classic AI, generative AI, now we are going to agentic AI?
Yeah, well, first, agentic AI is probably the area that is more interesting for all of you here on the stage, in a sense of integration between anything that is happening in the blockchain with the AI world. So I guess more in a more fun way of looking at agentic AI, we all dream about being on the beach and somebody else doing our work, a robot somewhere sitting somewhere. So agentic AI is really the first approach that I've seen in the market that actually makes us become way more productive in solving tasks that we have to do every day. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. I think that will materialize, and I'll highlight how we are working on that. But the other day, a couple of researchers in the States built an agentic AI that the goal was to build a research technology company. So they built basically the agents, and the agents were able to create LinkedIn, the profile of the company in LinkedIn, open positions, create Slack profiles for the CEO, CTO, the chief people officer, iterate on Slack with messages, create the jobs, scheduled interviews. They received more than 1,000 applications or something along those lines. And agentic AI is really this, is the first time that we are really trying to put the many processes that companies, people do, linked with AI at scale. So it's really the robotization of the processes that any company would use embedded with Gen AI. We are way past the area of building LLMs or building multimodal LLMs for the following reason. We don't have compute resources to do it at scale, like Meta, like OpenAI and others do. We can build small models, but I mean, those gigantic companies will always put those models out there, and we can leverage that. What we really can focus on is building marketplaces of agents that are then embedded into agentic platforms. Let me give you some examples. If you build a marketplace of blockchain agents, that interact with AI, you can do what George was saying at incredible scales. And you can have agents that are specific to products that you are creating, and they will integrate with a wider architecture of agents that are then solving a particular problem. I have been building agents to basically police the online world for brands. So an agent that is deployed, let's say, to monitor marketplaces, every day is monitoring Amazon or eBay, checking if anybody is attacking a particular brand, confirming that the brand is being attacked, their IPRs, trademarks, copyrights, counterfeit is being attacked, recommend to an end user, a person, an auditor, that that particular thread should be taken online, then going to Amazon, eBay, or whatever, and submitting the request, taking it online, and then making sure that the brand is less impacted. And if the brand is less impacted, 5 billion people in the world are more protected, which is every user of a brand, be it Apple, be it whatever. So when you think about the phenomenon of agentic AI, really think about two things. All the innovation that can happen in AI, be it classic machine learning, be it image models, audio models, text models, big or small, combined with something that we all have used in the last decade, robotic process automation. When you marry the two, you enter a world of agentic process automation, which is something we are not ready yet, but will revolutionize most sectors and most economies around the world. And I'm really, really saying this in a way. I am impressed with what agentics can do. And it takes a lot to impress me these days with technology. And I'm really impressed with what it will bring to the economies, the productivity gains that it will bring, the revolution it can do on companies. So for you guys that are working in incredible products that are so differentiated, here's a thought for you to take away from this conference. Think how you can build agents that will be part of a marketplace. So platforms that will emerge in the next couple of years around marketplaces for agentic platforms can integrate your elements into their workflows. That will be very powerful. Whatever is the sector, you could have a blockchain for manufacturing or whatever. So just wanted to kind of bring to light more in realistic examples of what agentic AI is and how that can help all of us move forward as a society.
No, that was perfect because I think the imagination of the people around generative AI is just really contaminated, I would say, by ChatGPT and LLMs, and stops there. And really creating this connection and seeing real example of what's agentic AI is a really good point. I just want to make a parenthesis in here just to say that Portugal announced the name for our small LLM, and it will be Amália, the fado singer. How predictable. Diogo, do you want to explain us about the teachable machines? That was the name that you called it?
Okay, but first let me just explain a little bit more about what is a generative AI and what is the difference between generative AI and the
How to spot who's coming from the academia?
No, yeah, but I will not get into the maths. I will just say one or two words related with math, and that's it. So these generative AI models, they learn distributions instead of learning just the output that is expected. And because they are learning distributions, they are able to generate more data than the data that they use to train these models. And what we realize is these models, they have some knowledge. And when you want to give them more knowledge or even review the knowledge, you need to know how to do that. And you have different approaches. If you take the example of the teachers, sometimes if the teacher wants to explain something to a student, a new concept, you may think, okay, let's start with the simple concepts and then build on top of this and explain more complex concepts. And we realize that these models, these generative models or even LLMs, they also learn like this. And we tested different approaches that we also do with humans, and we realize that they actually learn the same way that we do. Now we try to think the opposite way. So how can we develop new ways of teaching? We can try these new ways of teaching in these LLMs, see if they work, and if they work, we can apply it to the human. I'm not saying that we are going to replace teachers, no. I'm just saying that we are going to augment their capabilities, okay? I'm saying this because in the last 3 years I also been teaching, and I see students using ChatGPT. They always try, I don't know why, they always try to hide their tab, the Google tab, where they have ChatGPT open. You can know that they are using ChatGPT because when you ask them for doing something, you know what they are capable of, and sometimes we see some functions that first-year students will not do in one line, but they have just one line of code that is really optimized. And that brings another aspect about using ChatGPT in teaching. In my view, if you ask me, I think we should teach students how to use ChatGPT. We shouldn't hide ChatGPT from them. We first need to teach our teachers how to use ChatGPT so that they can use this knowledge to also teach their students on how to use them. I mean, we all have knives at home, but no one takes the knives out and starts to harm people, right? Because they teach us like that, that this is something that you need to eat and not for doing other stuff. And I think we should apply the same analogy to LLMs. And there is another benefit about using LLMs for teaching, which is you can personalize the curricular for the specific student, okay? So imagine that I am a student. I already did all my exercises that the professor said me to do, but I need more exercises. I need to test myself if I'm actually understanding what the teacher is saying. I can ask ChatGPT to generate more exercises for me. And based on that, I can also ask them, after doing the exercises, to check if the solution that I found is capable of solving the issue. And in my view, this iteration, like you prompt, you give an answer, you try to improve the answer that GPT gives you, I think with this iteration you can become a better programmer, to be honest, because you have to have this capability of read the code, check what is missing, check what you can do to improve. And by interacting with ChatGPT, in my view, you can be more productive and you can be, at the end of the day, a better programmer.
Thank you for the explanation. You left mathematics out of it, so it was cool. About replacing teachers, I have to say that
Not
ChatGPT...
replacing teachers.
No. I want to say that ChatGPT couldn't keep a room of students quiet, so they will never replace teachers. Teachers will be there to keep people quiet. Let's bring blockchain to the table and let's try to answer the question that they proposed to us. Because blockchain is a technology known for its traceability and the ability to certify content. And one of the problems that is coming to our daily lives brought by generative AI is the deepfakes realm, the fake news, and all these sort of problems that we can imagine. And I want to give you this open question about if you think that blockchain can contribute to tackle these problems in some way. It doesn't have to be like based on your professional experience, it can be on your opinion, since you are a specialist in technology. I don't know who wants to grab the question.
I can start, because what you're talking about is what I mentioned, the truth behind all the facts. Nowadays, ChatGPT and many other generative AI already provide a list of sources that you use to generate the content. But you can ask, can we believe in those sources? Because a lie repeated many times becomes a true. And this has never been so real like in generative AI. So if you have a way to identify the truth level, certify all the knowledge that is used by generative AI, then you can have an assessment on the confidence that you have on the results. And this is something that is growing, the augmented generative AI, that combines generative AI with semantic representations of the knowledge and this certification process that we can use. You can make it through blockchain.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that I will repeat some of the points I mentioned before, or trying to basically echo in some areas what George said. But I'll try to probably provide a different angle to the whole field of AI, you know, all the way from classic machine learning to vision language models to multimodals to, you know, smaller or bigger LLMs that combine multimodals or not, it all depends on data. So, you know, all types of data today are utilized to build these models. I don't think that that will ever change. We'll always build models with data. So, of course, you play a role there if you have repositories of data that are reliable. So why wouldn't you build reliability on your models? Of course you would. But I don't necessarily think that that's the end game for you. I think what you really should focus on is in what we're basically sharing here in different terms, which is bringing, if you want, systems that are augmented, and that's why the agentic part is so key, is that the augmentation of any AI system today that you use in a ChatGPT interface or any other interface in any product out there that has some sort of a integration to AI is going to try to validate or get more knowledge, get more information from sources of data. And you can plug, you can be in some areas, those sources of data that the system is integrated to. And the amount of use cases that you can apply on top of that are really, you know, unlimited. You know, if you have closed systems that are supposed to be working in one industry, you know, if that gets integrated, the AI system will have a source of reliability. And I think that's where, at least from my knowledge, and similar to what Duke shared, I'm not an expert in all use cases that blockchain would use, but I'm an expert in the data that it generates and how that can be utilized. And I think that's powerful. And I think we need to find, and when I say we, is I teach in universities, I work with companies. We need to do a little bit more to integrate the data that you generate with the systems that we're building so that they speak the same language. And I haven't seen globally a lot of examples where we've done a little bit more to integrate more of this data. I think there is still a huge opportunity to bring those two worlds more together. That's at least my take.
Yeah, you were saying about data, and one of the big issues of LLMs is the data. The data that it needs to train, and the time that it needs to train, and also where the data is coming from. Well, you are not 100% sure that the data that GPT is using to train their models is not biased, right? And that's why you need also teachers or people, humans, to teach the models how to give the correct answers which are unbiased. But the humans can be also biased. And I think blockchain can help in this case because you can like somehow, because I don't know about anything about blockchain, but probably you can understand where this data is coming from. Okay, you can just, for example, put like a timestamp where you can say, okay, this data is valid until this point, because we also have this issue with LLMs, which is the cutoff point, where if you ask the more traditional LLMs about who was elected the president of America, probably he doesn't have the actual knowledge. And probably with blockchain we can also use to put like an answer of ChatGPT. I can put like a timestamp and say that this answer is valid until this point, right? I also think that blockchain can help in another way. Imagine, you never know, especially in the companies. So imagine if your company is able to develop a large language model. You can use blockchain to certify that this model is the actual model that the company built. And also keep track of the history in terms of parameters. Sorry, I'm a researcher, I need to talk about parameters. And also keep track of the history and what changed from one version to the other version. So that's my view about how blockchain can help in this generative world, both in terms of security, because you can rely on the models that the companies provide and you can make sure that these models are the real models, and also about the data, where the data is coming from and to what point that data is valid.
Just
Yes, sure.
this issue, if you're using things like AI in an organization to take decisions, the data and in this record of what was the reality when the decision was made, it's very important because if that reality changes, you may have to review your decisions, and if you sometime further you're accountable for these decisions, then you can have the reason and the proof that you take that decision based on that data.
Yeah, on something, you have some way to prove. Talking about data and LLMs is a really big and complex question. We are on our last 5 minutes. I would like to, yesterday we talked a lot about regulation of crypto and blockchain, and regulation is a major issue in the area of AI. We have AI Hacked, which is so complex to process. I want to hear from you if it's a big hurdle or if you have another challenge that you want to highlight that's the biggest hurdle, the biggest difficulty to implement this kind of technology. And on top of that question, since we are on our last question, I want to ask you if this merging of two technologies is like adding a legal complexity from one technology to another and really becomes like a nightmare to merge these two technologies.
I mean, I'm closer to that at both a EU level. I've joined the EU Needs AI Act from Meta. If you guys go online, you'll see the reason. Like, look, Europe has a lot of challenges. We're getting old. Our cities are getting old. We need disruption. If we get away from the research of AI, we're in big trouble. We have bigger costs for capital compared to other markets. So if the regulation as it stands goes away, first, you know, you're regulating something that hasn't even achieved its full peak, but that's a secondary point. We really have to make our world more simpler in what regards to regulation. The EU has a lot of small and medium enterprises. They don't have the means that bigger corporates have. Those are the ones that will suffer the most. And therefore, all of us as people and human beings working on those companies. Like, we have to be aware of the risks. We absolutely do. But like, we really have to change the game in what comes to regulation. Simplification. Like, we are all aware, you know, some things will happen. Some jobs will be more at risk than others, but we'll create other jobs. More productivity, more knowledge just means more innovation. And I'm really, really against in one way, but I'm really nervous about the whole complexity that we created from the Data Act to the AI Act and how much that will prevent companies to move on. And that will affect our society in Europe. Like, we are already behind in a lot of sectors. If we are behind, at least with a significant gap in technology, like, I don't know what will be the future of my grandsons, and that scares me.
Well, I think we need regulation. It helps us to not live in a jungle where everyone does whatever they want to do. But I also agree with Eliane. I think you need to have like a trade-off between security and not pushing companies back to not work, for example, in the European Union because they have some restrict rules. At the end of the day, this may also affect the user. I mean, not in terms of developing, but have access to the final product. I can give you like an example. So, for example, Apple developed this Apple Intelligence thing, which is still not available in the European Union, right? And as a user of Apple products, I want to have access to that Apple Intelligence platform. So I don't know at what point we should let the users decide, knowing the risks. At what point should we let the users decide to what data they want to share and how they want to share these data? And my biggest concern is how these laws that they are creating is pushing companies back. I mean, I always try to explain what I am doing in my PhD to my mom, and it's really complicated to explain in simple terms what I am doing. So I am guessing people in Brussels, I mean, the scientific department, try to explain to the law team what they are doing, and they try to make rules based on that. And also, Eliane was pointing one thing which is really important, is this is changing every day. And these dynamics makes it more harder to make a law that is general and it's not dubious and you know exactly what to do. And regarding this generative world, now companies are asked to label when some content is generated by AI. I don't know if everyone is following it, but I know that Sport TV, for example, is doing that. They have now this generative AI label that says this content was generated by AI. Yeah, so my biggest concern is the users and how many companies will not join the European Union because we know they know that they have lots of rules. But on the other hand, we need to give kudos to European Union because they are giving the first steps on trying to the regulation of AI.
Before I hand over to you, really quick, one thing that I think, Diogo, I would like to echo what you just said, but in a slightly different angle. It's just a few seconds. We need to solve our knowledge of the digital world by educating people. Like, we need to bring to the schools, right from you are a teenager, how to deal with the digital world, the data ownership problems. Like, you are never told. I mean, does anyone at school learn how to use Facebook or Instagram, or how your data will be affected in Google websites, or how Google indexes stuff? We don't. We don't teach people. So we are all acting on something we don't teach, and I think we need more education from the young levels to then, because I agree with you at 500%, to give the ownership to the user to make legitimate decisions about what he wants and he doesn't want. And some people will say, well, I don't want, I'm scared about this thing. Okay, don't use it, that's fine. And we have to protect that person. That's different from preventing all of us to innovate as an economy and a society. And I think that's really the risk here. Sorry, George.
No, exactly. I was going exactly on that line of thought, because when you start to regulate, and I've been a meeting 2 months ago, say that in next 2 years, Europe is going to launch much more regulation on AI. The only effect is companies go outside, go develop this outside Europe, and then when everything is clear, probably come to here. And this is not good for Europe. I think the approach should be like teaching, giving knowledge to people to select what to use or not. Things like responsible AI, making AI danger assessment, things like that, and then let the users choose whether to use or not. I think it would be much more useful, either for the companies and for the user, than to have someone in our office saying what can and cannot be done. This will only delay and complicate, because AI it's a research area. So AI is like software algorithm research. What is true today, what is used today, won't be used next year. Imagine the AI Act, if it has been done 3 years ago. What will it be? It would make no sense. And so we are making a lot of effort creating regulation that probably in 1 or 2 years is obsolete.
Yep. Okay. We're very far from AGI.
You can clap.
Thank you.
It was a really good final round. I just want to add a little bit topping on top of what you said about education and literacy, since I run a magazine which is trying every day to explain and to think about these complex questions. So just to say that education should not end at school. You have to keep educating yourself in this kind of uses, and you see in the Portuguese media, mainstream media, saying things like ChatGPT thinks and ChatGPT dreams and all these kind of fabulations about technology that really contaminate, once again, the politicians that don't create a rigorous image and figure of what it is, this kind of technology.